There's a church called the Church of the Resurrection in Kansas City. A few years ago, they conducted a survey. This is a massive church, and the survey was conducted with 5,000 churchgoers. And this is kind of a thinking, open-minded congregation, a lot like ours. It was the biggest survey of its kind ever taken. The methodology was verified by an outside polling company. And they asked single people and married people what they look for in relationships. Among other things, we'll talk about sexual intimacy just for a minute today, just finding in that survey. And it would be helpful for us to look at this survey. It was published in a book by Adam Hamilton called Love to Stay, Sex, Grace, and Commitment. And so we're going to look at two parts of the survey today: qualities single women look for in a mate, and qualities that married women listed as deposits in their love bank. What would make a married woman happy in her relationship? So I trust there would be some things that you would either like to write down if you're old school and you use paper, or YouVersion. You can follow along with the survey on the screens and hopefully write some things down. So, qualities that single women look for in a partner. Women, there are 4 age groups in both of these surveys. Women 19 to 29, listed in order: honest and trustworthiness, fun and humorous, strong faith, intelligent, and a good communicator. Any surprises there? Seems like does it fit ladies, does it fit your experience? When you were 19 to 29, or if you are? Am I alone up here? Hello? Is the microphone working? Okay, great. So are you shocked by anything? Anything that should be on there that's left off? Got to be honest with you. Last week, physical attractiveness was listed in all guys' categories. Ladies, are you telling me it's not even in the top 5? Number 6. Yes. We have an honest person, right? Had there been 6 6 replies possible, it would have been there. Okay, but 19 to 29, there you go. So guys, you're going to notice something, or we have same-sex couples in this church as well. If you're in a relationship with a woman, you're going to notice some things as we go through these different age groups. So there's 19 to 29. Let's go next, 30 to 49. Honest, trustworthy, strong faith, fun, humorous, emotionally stable, good communicator. Only one thing has changed. Women over 30 don't even look for intelligence anymore. They're like, I'm just going to go ahead and take intelligence off the list. I'll replace it with emotional stability. Everything, it's great. Everything else is the same. Isn't that interesting? Just one change. Everything else, and of course, number 6, physical attractiveness. So there's women 30 to 49. Let's go on. Women 50 to 69. Interesting. Okay, honest, trustworthy, strong faith, emotionally stable, that's still there, good communicator, fun and humorous. So the only new one is good communicator. Am I right? So they're all the same. So we've just changed the order between 30 and 70 years old and what single women look for in a partner. If you're single and want to be in a relationship with a woman, that's noteworthy, correct? Okay, it's going 70 plus. Here it does, honest, trustworthy, emotionally stable, strong faith, good communicator. One change, what is it? Compassionate. And you could imagine, at that stage in life, there may be a greater value for compassion. Number 6, probably still, physical attractiveness. But the list doesn't change much, does it? Are you with me? It doesn't change much. So for single women and what they're looking for in a partner, I just think that's enlightening. The list doesn't change much. I mean, you shuffle a few things around. Intelligence falls by the wayside in the 20s. Other than that, the list looks largely the same. So only single women, 19 to 29, listed intelligence. Women over 70 listed compassionate. So if you're single and you'd like to be in a relationship with a woman, all age groups desire these qualities: honest, trustworthy, fun, humorous, strong faith, good communicator. That's worth its price, worth its weight in gold, right there. That information. Women, it's just a stereotype in our culture that understanding women, it's just hard. Women are mysterious. Well, actually, for what single women are looking for, it's largely the same throughout life. So let's move on to married ladies. Here are the qualities or actions married women desired in a relationship. 19 to 20. Let's watch these lists and how they morph. Number 1, sharing his feelings with me. Number 2, having fun with me. Anybody surprised that's number 2? 3, demonstrations of affection. 4, listening to me. 5, words of admiration or compliments. Let's move on to 30 through 49. Number 1, women 30 to 49, sharing his feelings with me. Number 2, having fun with me. 3, listening to me. 4, demonstrations of affection. 5, when he cares for the children. Only one change, correct? When he cares for, it's obvious why. At that age, you have a lot of small children, generally, in a relationship. So only one thing changed. Largely, the list remained the same. Let's go 50 to 69-year-old ladies. Number 1, sharing his feelings with me. Number 2, having fun with me. Deja vu? Number 3, demonstrations of affection. 4, listening to me. Only one thing has changed. Number 5, makes me feel safe and secure. So the kids are getting older. Caring for the little kids isn't as important, but he or she, my partner, makes me feel safe and secure. Women over 70. Number 1, demonstrations of affection. A little shuffle, right? Sharing his feelings with me, that's still in the top 2. 3, words of affirmation. 4, tender touch. That's new. What does love over time look like? Tender touch. And 5, this is interesting, isn't it? When he or she worships with me. That's new, right? So you saw again, largely, these answers remain the same. Women in all but the 70-plus age group listed sharing his feelings with me or her feelings with me as number 1. Having fun with me was number 2 in every list except for 70-plus. So in every age group of married women except for 70-plus, sharing feelings and having fun were number 1 and 2. Sharing feelings and having fun. Just over, throughout the ages, those were number 1 and 2, except for 70+. And they were listed above even showing affection and listening. So if you are dating a woman or married to a woman, if you can share your feelings and you can have fun, then you're fulfilling the top 2 desires that these ladies listed. To be honest with you, that's a little bit of news to me, a little bit. So I think the message is, if you can be emotionally open, if you can kind of go through life and just kind of have an awareness of how you feel, and you can share that a little bit, enough at least, and you can also smile and joke and have some fun in life, you've fulfilled the top 2 things that ladies looked for across all of the ages except for 70+, and that list is just a little bit different. So here are the qualities that married women in every age group listed: sharing feelings and demonstrations of affection. But again, the categories were largely the same, all until 70+. I think that's just priceless information for anybody who feels like, man, I just don't know what women want. That's just a stereotype in our culture. Well, I think that's really, really helpful information. Can you be emotionally open? And can you have some fun in life and enjoy life? All right, let's move on to Ephesians chapter 5. We said last week, the letter to the Ephesians is a letter the Apostle Paul wrote to followers of Jesus meeting in a city called Ephesus that's now in modern-day Turkey. And in Ephesians, in chapter 5, we have a list of instructions that appear 4 times in the New Testament. And they're instructions for how people in a household can relate to one another, how spouses can relate to one another, how parents can relate to kids, and then unfortunately for us here in the 21st century, how slaves relate to masters, and vice versa. These 4 sections are called Greco-Roman household codes. This is the Roman Empire when the New Testament was written, and they loved Greek culture, so Greco-Roman. And these, we know from archaeology and history, that these are actually common values in the Greco-Roman world that we find in the Bible, and that starts to raise all kinds of questions about how do we interpret the Bible, and we've talked about that for 2 years here in One Church. And so we have to be careful when we look at these instructions. But I think there is a general truth that I think most people would say rings true in their relationships, and especially in intimate relationships, but I think this applies to, mom, sister, aunt, daughter, and it's in Ephesians 5:33. And if you want to use your YouVersion, you can read it along with me and write down whatever you'd like. Paul writes, "However, each one of you must also love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. So he's talking about the only kind of marriage that was legal in the Greco-Roman world. Same-sex marriage is legal in Arizona. We have same-sex couples in our church. But he's talking about the relationship that was legal and common then. But I think the general truth applies, regardless of your relationship. Notice, just like we said last week, Paul exchanges a couple of words here. He says, men, love the woman in your life. Women, respect the man in your life. So there's the exchange of the words love and respect. And we said last week that perhaps respect is the core need of a man, because his central question in life is, am I capable of doing what I need to do to succeed in this life? Perhaps that's the central question of a man's life. Do I have what it takes to be successful, however he defines that? And by showing respect to a man, you help him to answer his central question in the affirmative with a yes. Perhaps, and this is a general truth, right? There would be exceptions to this. Perhaps the core need of a woman, of course women want to be respected, but perhaps the core need of a woman is to be loved. And so Paul instructs those who are in a relationship with a woman to love her as he loves himself, to love her as she loves herself. That I'm going to, however, all the things I want for my own life and my hopes and dreams and values and all the times I spend thinking about me, I'm going to extend that same love to her. I'm going to think about her needs as much as I think about my needs. I'm going to think about her hopes and dreams as much as I think about my hopes and dreams. That's Paul's instruction for love and respect. And Dr. Emerson Eggerichs authored a book entitled Love and Respect, based on this passage. And here's what he says about what it might look like to extend love like this to her. He writes, love means two people connected together. And this is the key to how women view relationships. He writes, wives want connectivity. It's a good thing to write down in your new version. Perhaps the woman in your life desires connectivity. Maybe that's what love looks like for her. She wants to connect in deeper and deeper ways with you. And again, there may be exceptions, but perhaps it's a general truth that the women in our lives desire connectivity. I think this is also, it's true of moms, it's true of sisters, aunts, daughters, friends that we have. Perhaps love looks like connectivity. So Dr. Eggerichs says that a couple came to him for counseling. And this was a husband and wife couple, and their relationship had been growing. They had been growing more and more apart over time. They were becoming more distant from each other. And it got to the point that they sought out marriage counseling. And Dr. Eggerichs asked them, what's wrong? What's going on? What brought you here? And the husband instantly launched into kind of blaming his wife for being controlling. He said that she's trying to control me. She's trying to control my life. She's suffocating me. It's the N word that gets applied to women. She's nagging me. And she just won't kind of give me a break. And I feel like she's just trying to control my life, and I can't get free. It's like I feel like she's trying to be my mom instead of my wife. And the wife she goes into tears at this point. And obviously she has a different view of the relationship. And so Dr. Eggerichs asked her, he said these things, what's going on from your perspective? And she explained, well, his job requires him to travel a lot. And on top of that, when he's home, and he has to work late, a couple nights a week, and just, it feels like we're just not connecting the way that I want to connect, the way I believe we could connect. And before we got married, my hopes and dreams for connecting and what that would look like. And so you see, this is a very different interpretation of the relationship, right? Are you with me right now? And so he feels all suffocated, and she's controlling me, and she's mothering me, and she won't give me any space. And she says, I just want to connect with him. And there's this distance in our relationship that I feel like I just can't overcome, and I'm trying, and I'm trying, and I'm trying. And so I'll say to him, honey, can you just be home, or can we go out on a date, or can you stay home and do this? And he perceives it as one way, But what I'm really trying to do is connect. And Emerson Eggerichs said that, again, maybe a generalization, but he said perhaps a woman views a relationship like this. Like you're looking at a photograph of the two of you in the relationship. And that photograph has been torn down the middle. Maybe not torn all the way, but torn partially. And there's just always this distance. There's some tear in the photograph, and it separates you a little bit. It creates some distance between the two of you. And Eggerichs submits that perhaps the desire for connectivity looks like she's always trying to tape that picture back together. That she's always trying to bridge that gap and repair the tear. Any distance she feels, any separateness, she wants to always just kind of mend that photograph and connect in deeper and deeper ways. Well, of course, as counseling went on, they discovered that it's not so mysterious. They had been misinterpreting each other. They weren't deciphering each other's codes correctly. And that they had been communicating past each other, not with each other, but past each other. And she wasn't trying to control him. She wasn't trying to mother him. She wasn't trying to suffocate him. She wanted more connectivity with him. And it took him some time to kind of come around and see things from her point of view, because he had been thinking this for a long time privately without saying anything to her. He would just, instead of talking with her, he would just withdraw more, which, and of course, wanted her to connect more, right? And so Dr. Eggerichs calls it the crazy cycle. He's not calling the couple crazy. He's saying that behavior is crazy. When she wants connectivity, but he thinks it's controlling, so he withdraws, and then she moves toward him to try to connect again. He withdraws even more, and they're communicating past each other. So the key for them was to take away the mystery and to be able to communicate with one another and give each other the benefit of the doubt and interpret each other's codes correctly. And really, the husband had to come around to seeing that what she really wanted was connectivity. Once he realized that, they were able to move closer and closer together, repair that photograph. It was just realizing love for her looked like connectivity. Well, if she wants to connect and he withdraws from her for any reason, of course, that just leads to greater and greater separation. And according to this same survey from Church of the Resurrection and the book Love to Stay, here are the top 3 causes of divorce. They're not in the notes. You could write them down. They're not on the screens, but you can write them down if you want. Top 3 causes of divorce. They all start with an A. Number 1, adultery. Captain Obvious here, that comes from distance, right? Adultery is often the culmination of increasing distance, the opposite of connectivity. Adultery. Number 2, addictions. Substance abuse or some other kind of an addiction that drove a wedge in the relationship or tore the photograph. The addiction becomes all about, seeking to escape from anxiety, and that becomes the main thing in the person's life. Again, distance, the opposite of connectivity. So adultery, addictions. Number 3, abuse. Emotional abuse or physical abuse on the part of one or more, one or both spouses. Obviously, abuse, distant. It's behavior that distances people. It's the opposite of connectivity. Other causes included communication issues. Distance, the opposite of connectivity. Turning away from one another. Financial problems was another cause, but that's the symptom. What really is behind the financial problems is a growing distance in the relationship, the opposite of connectivity. So I would imagine if you want to love her as well as possible, here's the question, here's the central question for all of us to ask. In your relationship, which direction are you moving? Are you moving closer together, or are you moving farther apart? And you could ask yourself that question over the last year of your relationship. What about today? We could ask that question about today. Are we moving closer together today, or are we moving farther apart today? Are we connecting? If that's what love to her looks like, connecting with her, are we moving apart, or are we moving closer together? Again, this doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. Mom, aunt, sister, daughter, friend. If she does desire love, and that love looks like connectivity, are you moving closer together or farther apart? There's one more piece of information that's useful to a lot of folks from the survey, and we'll talk about it very briefly. I'm looking around. I don't see any kids in the service. Am I correct about that? All adults here, okay? Sexual intimacy was part of the survey. And they asked about frequency for intimate couples. The most common frequency of sexual intimacy in every category except 70 plus was, do I have your attention right now? Are you waiting? Yeah. I don't have to worry about losing you in this section of the sermon. The most common frequency, except 70 plus, was once per week. And about 25% of couples under 70 are sexually intimate once per week. A quarter, intimate once per week. About 15% were intimate twice per week. And about 20 to 30% across all age categories were intimate twice per month. Now check this out. There were lots of questions on the survey, and they did some correlation that I, as a pastor, really, really like, that I'm going to read to you. For those who are intimate at least twice a week, they also do these other activities together. I probably don't have to tell you to write these down, right? Twice a week, they do these other activities together. Number one, 71% go on a date at least monthly. A monthly date night. 71% of people who go on a monthly date night were intimate twice a week. Check this out. 80% attended worship services regularly. Amen, brother. 80% attended worship services. Is this a good time to talk about regular worship attendance? I don't know. 80% of people who were intimate twice a week attended worship regularly. Check this out. 57% of couples who were intimate twice a week spent 30 minutes or more per day in conversation with each other. It's all about connectivity, right? Are you seeing the pattern here? Connectivity. If they're moving closer together and connecting, that's going to lead to connecting physically as well. Fourth, those who, check this out, pray together daily. Didn't say how long. Just sat down, had a prayer together daily, maybe before bed or maybe, with the kids, whatever. Just those who prayed together daily were twice as likely to be intimate twice a week. Just praying together. Check out what else led. If you do this behavior, you're twice as likely to be intimate with one another twice per week. Attending a small group. Watch how quickly I promote the new one groups that are coming up here in a couple of weeks. We have the graphic. Drum roll, please. New one groups are starting, everybody. Isn't that awesome news? Yeah, new one groups are starting. So you have 2 more Sundays. I'm totally shameless, I know, but that's fine. I'm going to use whatever I can. You have 2 more Sundays if you stop by the information center to sign up for a new one group, and they run for 12 weeks. That sounds like forever, does it? 12 weeks. It's like my entire life, 12 weeks. And then you get into a group and you form like brand new friends, and the 12 weeks goes like that. That's what it feels. Doesn't it feel like that for those of you who've been in one groups? Doesn't it feel like that? And so you can sign up for a new one group. There are 4 that we're offering, and I'm going to quickly list them for you. They're different nights, different places. One topic, they're going to study a book called The Primal Blueprint, which is about a healthy diet. And so if you're looking to cook in a more healthy way, eat a little bit more healthy, The Primal Blueprint, you can sign up for that group. Another group is called Before Amen. It's about prayer. It's about developing a spiritual connection in your life. We're a church for the spiritual, not religious. We realize there are a lot of people who are skeptical of organized religion, but they want a spiritual connection with God. There are millions of those people in this country. That group's going to help with that. It's about prayer and connecting with God on a spiritual level. You can sign up at the information center. I'm leading 2 groups this semester, actually. One is called, it's a book called Making Sense of the Bible by Adam Hamilton, the same author of Love to Stay. If you've struggled to understand the Bible, if you have questions about it, this group's going to be just revolutionary in your spiritual life. You can sign up for that group at the information table. The other one I'm leading is a group I lead just about every semester called Questions and Doubts. It's just on the first night. I pass out index cards and a pen. Everybody writes one question. If you could ask God one question, what would it be? Anything. And I mean, it gets from, like theological, philosophical stuff to like gut-wrenching, real deal pain. And every week, we just take a card, and that's what we talk about. And you'll see people who have been a Christian or they've been around church for 50, 60 years, and all of a sudden they have this completely new outlook on their faith. and their spiritual connection with God. So you can sign up for a new one group out at the information table, and you can experience the side effects of that, apparently, in the survey. So, moving on, I want to close with a story that I think is just one of the most touching stories I've heard about what it looks like to love each other well and to experience connectivity and to move closer together instead of apart. It's a story about a couple named Gordon and Norma Yeager. And they were married on the day Norma graduated from high school in 1939. Gordon at least waited till she graduated high school. In 1939, and they were married for 72 years. And their kids said they were just soulmates, they were connected at the hip. Always together, just always in love for 72 years. Connectivity, growing closer together. They left this world in the same way, with the same amazing connectivity that they experienced in their 72 years of marriage. And it's such an awesome story that a local news station covered their story. It's about a 3-minute video I have to show you about Gordon and Norma Yeager. I'll give you a minute. How beautiful is that? Because they were holding hands, the monitor was picking up her heartbeat through his body. And now, we've shared general truths that women have shared in surveys, looked at Ephesians. Perhaps, whether it's a romantic partner and you want to love the woman in your life well, or if it's a mom, aunt, sister, daughter, friend, perhaps the best way to love her is just to ask her, how can I love you well? What would it look like for me to love you in the way that you need me to love you? What would it look like for us to connect? And always be putting that photograph back together more and more and more, and connecting with each other in deeper and deeper ways. And how can we always grow closer together than drift apart?